so we can actually look at some slides as well. Thank you very much, Roddy, for the opportunity to explore the government's new localism bill for planning. He did say across Cumbria, he did warn me that it was going to be across Cumbria, but I did say we are in Carlisle. I know Carlisle area better. I've worked with a lot of people in the local area, so if I keep going back to Carlisle examples, then apologies, but that's what I know best. In doing this and making best use of the time available, what I've actually done is look at three aspects. The neighbourhood planning primarily is the main aspect, neighbourhood development orders, and also references to community right to build and the community right to buy, as those have planning implications as well, and we'll see what's already in place. And in order to consider those implications, we need to focus on the government's objectives, really looking what has driven the production of the localism bill, and how these will manifest the current planning system that we operate. Okay. I'll keep track of this while and then you're at the right one up here. Thanks, mate. In May this year, the coalition government programme outlined the purpose of the bill. It was to devolve greater powers to councils and neighbourhoods, give local communities control over housing and planning. The main benefits were to empower local people, give local communities a real share in local growth, and create a more efficient and more local planning system. Our MP, John Stevenson, outlined how this has moved forward into the bill, and the length of the bill that we all know, avidly reading. And now that it's going through Parliament with the second reading so close, it's actually got momentum right at the start. Now, as a planner, I am really heartened to see that planning is a key part of this new agenda. I've worked for many years with local communities, and good planning has always remained the basis of taking community aspirations forward. And this bill very much now adds more weight to community-led plans, embracing them as a key part of the planning system. They've always been there, as far as I'm concerned. I've always worked with community-led plans, but this is a fundamental change, and that's the important thing. Now, across Cumbria, a lot of work has been done, and there's been good work done on neighbourhood plans. I don't need to tell you those parishes who've actually worked on them, or those who've worked for years through the Rural Community Council as was, Voluntary Action Cumbria, now ACT, might change its name, but community-led planning has always been there. And the bill has now raised the opportunity to put additional strength to the plans that you are involved in for your local community. At the risk of overusing the phrase used by our Prime Minister, it is clear that as far as neighbourhood planning is concerned, we are all in this together. It's local authorities and it's the parish councils and local people, and that's what will take us forward. In terms of neighbourhood plans, the context, the current planning system reinforces the value of the development plan. A plan-led system is being in process for years. This involves consultation right from the start, and it currently comprises a number of levels, and this is where the confusion starts. National planning policy statements set government policy. Regional spatial strategy is at a regional level for the North West. That's from Manchester, Liverpool, Cheshire, up to the Scottish border. A large document to get to grips with. There are extended policies in structural plans which operate at the county level. And at the local level, and for Carlisle, there's a combination of local plans, local development documents, core strategies. It depends which district you're in. Each have a combination. These local references all form part of the local development framework. And that, in essence, will stay because that forms the basis of some of the things that John has mentioned in terms of local development scheme and monitoring that in terms of the production of work you're doing. The Cumbria Association of Local Councils has also been running workshops to explain that for parish councils at the moment and how those changes have come in over the last 5-6 years. But those changes are now going to change again with greater force. For some areas, there is really a local level. We've adopted supplementary planning documents such as village plans, parish plans and design statements. Here we have Dalston, who've been a parish plan for years and been working on a design statement for years as well. Broadband have once adopted. There's even a group of parishes at Brampton, so there are various examples currently in place. And some of the questions really are, will these examples work? Can we take them forward in the same way with the extra powers that are coming forward? The current system is confusing at best, and I'll admit that. I am in the know, I work with it day to day. I can understand it. I can also understand why people are very confused about it. It was introduced in 2004 as a simplified planning system. But the Localism Bill seeks to take us a stage further by rationalising the national planning policy level, making that more succinct, removing the regional tier of policy, and giving greater weight to the local level in the form of neighbourhood development plans. If you look at the level of a district council area, there can still be many documents, and this will have to be coordinated and prepared, and that is the challenge ahead of us. If you take the regional level as an example of where it's not quite worked at the moment, the regional spatial strategy has extensive consultation across the North West. Consultation letters were sent to all parish councils, and local councils were asked to raise the profile through their websites and inform parish councils. I had calls from people trying to explain what was going on and what the importance of that was, and this is where the difficulty is. How many parish councils actually represented themselves at that level to try and understand and get to grips and influence what planning was happening in their areas? Very few, I suspect, because they felt so detached. This will now greatly improve, and you can actually concentrate your energies on what's happening far more at the local level. As a planner in a local authority, regional level set a valuable context, and with that removed, there will be some gaps. One of those classic ones, and much debate is happening nationally about housing numbers. They are set regionally, they will be set locally, but that is the added bonus for you. It's because you will feel far greater ownership of this if you want to be involved. There is still, nevertheless, a need for a strategic planning policy context in the area, and that's the one under which neighbourhood development plans will sit. So the local authority will still have planning functions, but we need to engage better on making sure that strategic works well with your neighbourhood development plans. Getting the balance right is difficult, but it remains important as the bill retains the overall context of neighbourhood development plans. Whilst local communities can draw plans before they can be brought into force, they only have limited weight. Now it's going to gain momentum. This includes the fit with national policy and guidance, strategic policy, in development plans, and compatibility with EU requirements. They are all provisions in the bill that say the context of what you prepare locally still has to fit nationally with what is happening in terms of certain planning principles. But there's more scope to do more at the local level. Now, all districts at the moment are at different stages. Eden and South Lakeland have got core strategies in place. You can see the spatial strategy and how that will develop. But for the likes of Carlisle, where we are actually on consultation from the end of this month with an issues paper, that's the first start of that core strategy and that spatial strategy. There's a real chance to get involved in what the district is doing as well and develop this together so that the development of the neighbourhood development plans will sit very closely and we can actually embody in that overall strategy what we want to do as a local level. So the time is now very real and very current to work on it. If I use a very strange scenario, Carlisle has the last local plan in the country. It was done under transitional arrangements as the change was happening. We are now developing our core strategy at a time when neighbourhood development plans are coming in place. We can now drive this forward and lead straight ahead in the next process. So there's a real opportunity here. So who are they for? The production of plans will not be for everyone. And there was a piece of Aurora mentioned this morning that actually it will be at your own pace. It's not statutory, you will be able to fit it in when you can do it. That's very much the parish council drive, the local drive for that. They just seek to identify two groups focusing on parish councils or community groups that are designated as neighbourhood forums. Now, some parish councils may feel that they don't have the skills or the knowledge to prepare plans. And if we consider action for creating a profile of community-led plans, they take several years to do, and they're very intensive. Promotion of parish plans over all those years, there are still some parishes that don't have them in place. People don't quite feel that they're necessarily right, and this is something that really needs not to miss out in the process. Those who actually don't have a plan in place or don't feel they can embrace this really will feel very vulnerable in this process, but there are mechanisms to keep that and make sure that's addressed, and that's where we all need to work together. We have a brilliant starting point from all that that's going on, as I mentioned, back to Rural Community Council, all those years of developing community-led plans. We've got a lot of work there, a lot of thoughts from those local communities. What we need to do now is embrace the new changes and and that gives us a very good grounding in career. Now, if you don't feel ready to prepare a plan, it's not necessarily a bad thing, as long as development needs are being met, and you don't end up as a place for unwanted development, and that's where the vulnerability can feel. That those who are early in the process would say no to development and push it where the plan's not being prepared. That's not what the bill says, officials are there, so don't feel that is vulnerable. It is very much your speed. And there are safeguards in the system. The local authority will have the role in coordinating the plans to see that that doesn't happen. For the urban areas, I know there's a very rural focus today, but there is an idea that communities can come together and be recognised as neighbourhood forums. And that will help the unparished areas. And that will affect many people across the country. And it will be the local authority who designates these neighbourhood forums. And this designation lasts for 5 years, and that could suggest it will take 5 years to do a plan. It depends on the context. We have guidelines that say plans will take 3 years to produce core strategies. They are very complex documents. So these new process should be very focused and much easier. But we need to make sure the areas are correctly defined. And oddly enough, when you read through all the guidance and you get into the details of schedules at the back, it does say that these groups must be properly constituted, which is why for rural areas parish councils are key, but in the unparished areas, they have to contain at least 3 members of a constituted organisation living in the neighbourhood area concerned. That could end up with a population in Carlisle of around 70,000, a lot of neighbourhood plans for small communities. That is a challenge. The area will have to have the boundaries agreed by the local planning authority, and there can only be one plan for an area, so you can't have several plans for the same area. And this is why the focus is around the parishes to start with the rural area, and it gets more complex in the unparished parts. It doesn't however mean that you have to do a plan for your whole parish. That's at least in the guidance at the moment. In terms of how they do them, communities can propose boundaries themselves for the neighbourhood. And the references reinforce the parish boundaries. Parishes can work together. The change from village plans and parish plans has already posed challenges to some authorities to think bigger than their immediate concerns for the village. Examples of Broadband Sands and Dalston have seen these challenges work, and the Brampton cluster itself has been challenging in getting through the process of developing parish plans on a much wider scale. To revisit this for neighbourhood development plans is not going to be easy, but a lot of preparation is being done. The Town Parish Council or Neighbourhood Forum can instigate a process requiring the local authority to produce a neighbourhood development order. Now, this order can be specific about the types of development that can exist, and they will have automatic planning permission. It actually establishes the principle for development. It can decide what the area will look like, where you use shops, offices and homes, and also where the green spaces would go and where they would be protected. A lot of that is already in place, but it's encouraging new growth and new developments. Local authorities have got established plans, so we're not starting from scratch. And in Carlisle, we've been working on a rural master planning project, which is looking at the landscape and environmental capacity of some of our existing settlements. And we can use that with parishes to actually develop an overall strategy that will help us establish the main principles, but also you with your neighbourhood development plans. And colleagues here who haven't heard that in the audience are thinking, gosh, that's not a good idea. But we will be doing that, and we will commit to work together. This cooperation isn't just going to be said, it has to happen in reality if we all to get the balance we want. In the more complex cases for development, this would result, the neighbourhood development policy result in outline permission, which gets the right to develop. So you're actually jumping a stage very much at the moment that's in place. You can actually get ahead far quicker and establish what needs to be done. So it's speeding up that process. And then there still will be detail for traditional planning applications. This reflects some of the guidance which has already been established by planning authorities through the local plans. There has to be some limits, however, and it will not be an ability to say no to important growth. The important relations to the context such as the local rural plan, which will require a certain number of homes. As mentioned, the homes target is going to be abolished at regional level. It will be developed locally, involving people locally, but that has to be worked across the whole of the district, so you can't just necessarily say no, it has to be more think about the fit that it has to the area. And that itself poses a challenge as to how you develop that. But it is there to ensure that the overriding, wider-ranging plans don't push development to those areas which don't have neighbourhood plans. There are examples in the bill which refer to things like the high-speed rail link. And you can understand that that scale, that is something which strategically has to happen on a far wider scale. So there needs to be some principles established as to how this will develop. And the plans will only become a community plan at the end of the process, with a requirement for a referendum which ensures that public support. Now, parish plans are already developed with public consultation right from the outset through questionnaires. A lot of you will have done, taking hours over trying to get all the results in and then decide where you go with your plan. And that's to make sure from those surveys that people are involved. Now, even through those processes, the referendum required under the bill requires over 50% support. That is a lot of support, depending on how you define your area. For some parishes, if you try and do the whole parish, that can be quite complex. Once given this support, the council will have to adopt them, and therefore there needs to be clarity over how they're being prepared and how they all fit together so that we know exactly what they are. In terms of an actual community right to buy rather than the right to build, and that is looking at community assets and important facilities. And what I just wanted to make, I haven't much of the time now, is in terms of the community right to buy, local authorities already have policies in place that help with this process. People will be familiar around here with Newmarket and the Club, which is the community-owned facility. Our own local plan here in Carlisle and many others have taken examples of working with the likes of Canberra, the Campaign for Real Ale, looking at protecting village pubs. And we protect local facilities with existing policies against change of use. That can act as a valuable trigger for communities to identify which assets are most vulnerable and where they can concentrate their efforts. We would resist losing important facilities through planning policies, but actually flag up an opportunity to actually work with that and say, here's a new opportunity that now is becoming real, and we need to work with these community assets that are identified. Now that is a lot of things going on. And the one issue that is highlighted in various places are resources and concerns about how this is going to be resourced. Developing plans is time consuming. You will know that from your local experience. I have a full-time job with a team and we know how time consuming it is. Through the planning profession, we often refer community groups to planning aid to help support and give independent guidance. But that again, the funding with everything that's going on is becoming more vulnerable in the process and it's finding itself under threat. This puts additional pressure on local authorities such as Carlisle, whilst developing overarching strategic plans to also be involved in the neighbourhood plans. The bill promotes the duty to engage and support the production of plans, no doubt about it. Through the Big Society Vanguard project in Eden, the District Council clearly fit this role up, and they do not set out to lead groups, but to support them, engage with them, and encourage the communities to develop their own plans. This is a classic example of how that can work. It's been the ethos behind community-led planning in Carlisle. We've done the same, supporting parish councils, going to meetings, advising them and helping them, but not actually writing their plans. Freedom community-led work is focused on 3 communities which combine parish councils. There's nothing in the bill to require parish councils to combine, but it could represent a practical way forward of dealing with the potential quantity of plans and the effort that's needed to produce things. It's the local planning authority who will have to vet potential forums, arrange referendums and process plans and orders. They'll need to resolve conflicts between neighbourhood plans and our own local development frameworks. The Carlisle, Allerdale, Copeland and Barrow, all this will coincide with work on our core strategies and our own local development frameworks. So resources will be stretched to deliver the fundamental aims of this bill, but we're not saying no, it is important to us, it's important to you. On a positive note, the Secretary of State may provide financial assistance, and that is information in the clause in the bill itself. And the government has now made grants available for supporting communities and neighbourhoods in planning. With a limited amount of grants for any one area, they will actually make sure that this is actually spread across the country. This could help to fill the support role needed for many community groups. I'm sure ACT's looking at the guidance on that at the moment. By way of conclusion, neighbourhood planning represents an exciting but challenging time ahead as the focus on local areas is strengthened. This afternoon I've just referred to a few parts of the Localism bill. There is a lot more in it for planning. It will be interesting to see how these changes evolve during the coming months and the production of new plans